طاهرين. Respected scholars, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. First of all, thank you so much for having me. It's a real honor to be in front of you today. And I really apologize for the lateness. The rain and the traffic was unexpected. Thank you so much. And we'll begin the talk, inshallah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Why am I here? And what's my purpose? And what do I want from life? These are all questions we normally ask ourselves. And if I was to ask every single one of you, you would give me different answers to what do you want from life. But initially, we all want the same thing, which is happiness. Whatever answer you give me, whatever answer that comes to your mind right now, the root of it will be because I want to be happy. We are on this earth to be happy. Allah wants us to be happy. And He's given us the instructions and the guidelines on how to achieve this happiness. Now, what happens is we are stuck with all the beliefs and the ideologies that we've grown up with and come to be so accustomed to and comfortable with, that when happiness comes into our way, or when we want to be guided, they want this purity and this happiness, we can't take it because we can't let go of what we already have here. All that we are used to, all that we don't examine in our entire lives is this. This is you, this is us right now. This is us right now. This is what Allah wants to give us through this way of life called Islam. He can't give us this if we don't give up this. The reason why I always try to make this presentation physical is so that we can understand that no way are we going to go forward without first eliminating the poisons inside. Examine those poisons and eliminate them. In the same way that if someone wanted to pour a cup of water and there was some dirt inside the cup, it would come out dirty. First off, we must examine ourselves properly. And that's uncomfortable. Today we want to talk about change. Change will only happen when you begin to examine yourself. And it sounds like a simple thing to say, but it's much deeper than just a statement. To really examine ourselves, imagine a statue and you breaking out of that statue. How uncomfortable that would be. Are you ready to sacrifice? Are you ready to come out of the norms, out of the comfort zone? It's not comfortable. To change, examine every single thing. Question yourself to go forward. I'm from Tottenham, in North London. If you guys know about that, then you know. If you don't know, if you remember a few years ago, the London riots, that started at the top of my road. Most of the people there were colleagues in school. So it was, I grew up in an area which wasn't very safe. And a lot of people that I knew and I grew up with ended up going onto the wrong paths of life. Just a few weeks ago, a brother that I knew from the school was stabbed and killed in the area. Over nothing, over £1,000. And I just thought to myself, why didn't I end up that way? What was the difference between me and him? What was the difference? As I grew, I would always wonder about the society that I grew up in, growing up. As I read and grew, I came across the fact that just like the human needs food and water for his growth, another human need is the need to feel important. My importance. You want to be someone. Ever since we were kids, we were told, you're going to be something. Or we told ourselves, I'm different. There's something special about what I'm going to do. This need for importance in an area like that makes someone go probably onto the wrong path of life so that they can be successful and they can make it in their own way. They're trying to achieve happiness as well, but they went down the wrong route. So then what was the difference between me and him, or people that didn't fall into that route? I thought, you know what, every time life got a bit sticky, Muharram would come around, or Shahr Ramadan would come around, and would come to the mosque, and we'd have these gatherings, as small as they are, or as big as they are. These gatherings in themselves would build the foundation and the core for us. Whenever we go too far out, we ground it again, we come back again to our roots, our support system. So I found that to be so interesting to me, that our communities are so important for our growth. And if we want to change, then it would start from here, all of us together. There's no I, together. Now, when talking about change, there's an analogy that I like to bring up, because this has been talked about so much, change, and so many different speakers have talked about it in all different ways and different titles, right? And we get inspired during the lecture, and then we go back and nothing really happens. Now these analogies, if we keep them with us, then hopefully, and if we write these things down as well, hopefully it would stay with us after the initial event. So this analogy is called Plato's cave. If anyone here has studied philosophy, they would be familiar with Plato. In this analogy, he talks about people underground, full of darkness, and they were born there and they've been raised there their entire lives. And these people have their shackles on their arms and their legs and their necks, so they can only ever look forward, nothing else. And they've never been outside, they've never seen anything else. There's a small fire behind them. Their entire lives, they grow up in this way. There's a small fire behind them. So in front of them, all they can see is shadows. All they can see are their own shadows. And depending on how the flames move, on how the people move, the shadows form. So they give names to these shadows, and these shadows begin to construct their own ideas, these people. And some of them are better at naming them than others, and they become the smart ones of that community underground in total darkness. And that's all they know to be real. Their reality is shadows. They've never seen anything else and never heard of anything else. And then Plato says, a man comes into the cave and he frees one of those men. Now in Islam, that man would be a prophet. He frees one of those men. He tells him, look behind you. And the man looks behind him and he sees fire, and it hurts his eyes a little bit because he's never seen anything like that in his life before. And he tells him, those shadows are not reality. And he doesn't believe it at first. No, this is what he's been used to his whole life. He can't let go of this. Right? This man's trying to give him this. He doesn't want to let go. No, it can't be true. This is what I've known my whole life. This is reality. It's not. He tells him, by the way, it's not just a fire. Come outside. He doesn't want to go outside, but he drags him out. Takes him outside forcefully, and then he sees the skies, the ground, the rivers. He sees animals, people. He sees shadows and reflections and the images which reflect those shadows and reflections. And he sees a whole new world, completely different to what he thought was reality. And he notices that the sun is what's giving all of this life. And the sun in Islam would be Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in this analogy. And he begins to think and grow. And he wonders, all his friends back in the cave, they still think shadows are a reality. And he wants to take them out of the cave. He just came out and became a completely different person now, with a completely different worldview, because he challenged what he believed was reality. So then he goes back to the cave, and now he wants to free his brethren in the cave. And he tries to speak to them, but his eyesight isn't as good as it was before, because he's not used to his shadows anymore. So they start to laugh at him and make fun of him. And he tells them, no, there's a whole world out there. Come out, let me show you. And he tries to free them, and they don't want anything to do with him. To the point that if he goes too far, they will oppress him, and to shut him up, maybe kill him. And isn't that the story of our history? Of all the prophets that tried to free us, and all the guys that came to free the people. Isn't that what happened to them? So what I want us to do is this cave that we're in, to attempt to free each other and free ourselves and come out of the cave, to really challenge what I believe, and I know I'm stressing this point a lot, but I can't stress it enough, to really challenge what I believe to be true. What I believe to be myself, the things that I want to sacrifice, the things that I want to give up. I'd like to share a story with you guys about my initial change. And it came about a few years ago when me and a few friends traveled to Spain. And when we were there, I liked the mountains as we would go past them. And I wanted to go to visit those mountains. No one really wanted to come with me. So one night, I told my friends, you know what, I'm going to go on my own. And you guys don't wait up for me. I'm just going to try to sit down in nature for a little bit. And just something drew me to it. I don't know what. But I just felt like I wanted to go. So I left and I went. Now I got to the beach, and far away I could see these mountains really high up. You know, when they're so far away and there's fog around them. So I was like, I want to go there. So I just started walking there. And it was about a 7-hour walk until I reached there. And a lot of things happened on the way. I reached a desert area where there was no more houses, no city, no people, just mountains around me. And I felt so free. And I chose the mountain that I wanted to hike up. And it was all random, nothing planned. And I began to hike up the mountain. About an hour later, it was almost sunset, and the sea was to my side. And I stood up there, and I'm trying to take in this air. You know when you're very high up, above sea level, and all you hear is wind? When the wind's very strong, you right? That's all I could hear. It was cold, and then a big gust of wind came and just flipped me over. And I fell down. And I froze for a minute, what just happened? And I tried to get up, and another gust of wind came and flipped me over again. And I'm really high up. And now I'm really shaking and scared. And I begin to pull myself down to see the edge, and it's a long way down. And I can't stand up anymore, my legs are shaking, and I'm thinking, what are you doing? Why did you come here? Stupid, stupid, stupid. I don't know why I was there. So then I started to try to crawl myself back down. But there was no way I was going down crawling, and it's almost nighttime right now, and it's very cold. And I'm thinking my situation is going to get really, really bad really, really soon. So I started to bring all these rocks around me, put them around me, so I was scared maybe if I was going to fall over, I could hold on to these rocks or something, right? And then nighttime came, and I could not see the sea anymore because it was the same color as the sky, pitch black, just darkness. Far away, I could see the city lights. Aside from that, nothing. I could barely see in front of me. In some desert area on the top of a mountain, what are you doing, right? And I'm there, and I'm so cold, and I'm really scared I'm going to fall down. And I actually really thought, after about an hour, that I was going to die. Whether or not those gusts of wind were strong enough to take me over, I believed they could. And I thought I was going to die. And at those moments, nothing mattered to me anymore. All the things that I thought were important in my life weren't. All I wanted, honestly, what I could remember, all I wanted was to hug my mother, tell her I'm sorry, ask God for forgiveness for all the bad things I've done in my life. That's it. And up there, I had the Quran with me, and I was trying to use the phone light to read the Quran. And I'm up there, and I'm just crying about my situation and my life, and I'm thinking I'm going to die. And then I hear these barks. If my situation couldn't get any worse, there were dogs around, and the barks were coming closer. So I was thinking, I'm definitely going to die if I don't get full enough. They're going to eat me. And I'm up here, and I've been up there for a few hours now, and I'm so exhausted emotionally from crying and from thinking about all the things I could have done and didn't do, and what I've done and what I regret. And I held the Quran close to my heart, and I laid back and sat, and I noticed the stars, and they were so vivid out there in nature, no light pollution. And I felt so small. This tiny me, who's felt that I'm going to do something different, I'm going to be someone, I want to do something how we think the world revolves around us. This tiny me on this big mountain, surrounded by larger mountains, surrounded by the sea, taken over by the sky, and then little old me. I feel so tiny. Like, what did that even matter? But after a few moments after that, a surge ran through me. And I just wanted to get up and go down. I thought, khalas. If I'm going to die, I'm going to die. I need to try. So I got up and I began to walk down. And I drop and get up and walk and drop and get up and walk. Eventually, I reached level ground. And then sunrise came. And I kept walking. And I found my way back to the initial beach that I went to through a motorway. Another long walk back. Thankfully, I was alive. I was so grateful. That was the best sunrise I ever had in my life. But I was never the same after that. Especially the moment when I laid back and looked at those stars. Because you know the stars that we see, those stars are actually lights. They're not really stars. They're lights of the stars which are already dead. The stars are so far away in our universe. Our universe is so huge. Those stars are so far away that by the time the light reaches us, the star is dead. And you know how fast light travels, right? Just on the switch and the light comes on. That's how fast light is traveling to us. But by the time we see it, the star is dead. This universe is that huge. We're that far away. There's this app where it shows how many people are dying and how many people are born within the second. And for every second, 15 people are dying. You just see 15 red dots just go off. Then 10 people are born. You just see them come on, right? Just little dots. Flicking on, flicking off. 7 billion dots, right? In this huge galaxy. So how important am I? And why does this world revolve around me? Now this can go two ways. Very positive or very negative. Very negative is in the way that we have been taught that we're nothing. That this was all just one big accident. And that billions of people have died and billions of people will live, and there's no meaning to this all. And so they distract us. We become distracted with this mundane existence with no meaning. In America, recently, they did a study, and they found that for children who are aged between 8 to 16, I think, would watch between 30 to 60 hours of television a week. That's a full-time job. Okay? Supervisors, managers would watch 20 hours a week. Supervisors, 10 hours a week. The average service worker, 30 hours a week. But when it came to the CEOs of the top companies, the successful people, they watched 2 to 3 hours a week. 50% of that material was based on the field that they work in. Now the reason I'm saying these studies is because the movers and shakers in this world are not sitting around watching television. They're not wasting their time. So what are we doing? Yeah, we're in a huge universe. Yeah, we shouldn't think that this world revolves around me. But don't I matter? Or is it that I will fall into this trap and become distracted enough not to care for any meaning within my life or the life around me, no aim, no divine goal, live, eat, sleep, reproduce, die? Is that what I'm here for? But what does Islam say? Islam says, despite this huge universe, despite you being so tiny, Imam Ali alayhi salam comes forward and says, تحسب نفسك أنك جرم صغير وفيك انطوى العالم الأكبر. You think you're just a small tiny entity, but inside you is encapsulated the entire universe. This entire universe is for me. It's not revolved around me, but it's the platform for which I can reach my divine goal, my perfect goal, my aim, to reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. اذكروني أذكركم. Remember me, I remember you. The creator of all this says, I remember you. Yeah, little you, I remember you. He says, Nabi Musa, when he speaks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, Ya Rabbi, أأنت بعيد فأناديك أم قريب فأناجيك? Are you far away so I should call out to you? Are you close to me so I should whisper to you? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya Musa, inni jalisun ma dhakarani. I'm sitting right next to the one who remembers me. The creator of this amazing, incredible universe that has no bounds is saying he's all for me. That 5 times a day, completely with him. So then Islam says you do matter. Actually, you matter so much that this was created so you could reach your initial aim and perfection. Sallallahu Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So when we're born with a question. And that question is why? Why am I here? In Islam, we call this question your fitrah. That innate nature inside you, which takes you towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And whenever in our lives we move away from fitrah, we're moving away from where we're supposed to go. Whenever we align with it, we're moving towards where we're supposed to go, where we're meant to be, to become who we're meant to be. The same way the captain of the ship can steer the ship any way he wants, but the compass is always pointing towards one direction. We want to align that. But what happens is when you are born in a state of a question, you're asking a question, you're born in a state of tension. Because when you're asking a question and you don't have the answer to it, you feel tense. You want the answer. You know when you're doing that maths equation and you're trying to figure it out, once you finally find the answer, you feel rest. You're at peace, you found the answer to it. But when you're trying to figure it out, you're tense, you're trying to figure it out. Trying to find the answer. So we're born in a state of tension, we're not born in a state of peace. Our fitrah is asking why. We're born in that tension. Our entire life, all of us here, one quest, to find out why. Quest of meaning. I don't know if any of you have read the book The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. It's a really nice adventure book, short book, I recommend it. And it's a young boy called Santiago from Andalusia in Spain, and he's searching for meaning. And he's asking, where is meaning, where is meaning? And they tell him meaning is in Egypt. So he goes to Egypt. And he asks them, where is meaning? And they tell him meaning is back in Andalusia, where he came from. It's that whole journey where he found himself and he changed. That was his meaning. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. We came from that world, and the adhan was whispered into our ears to remind us of where we came from. You know, we start, initially we're born and we move into adolescence, and then we grow up and we get married and we have kids. And all my life, people around me, people who came from other countries, they're always like, I want to go home, I want to go home. You know, my family, my parents, I grew up, they always said, I want to go back to Lebanon. I find with my Iraqi friends, they want to go back to Iraq one day. I want to go home, I want to go home. But they go home, and they're still not happy. Why? Because that's not really home. That's not really where you came from. Because where you came from is back in the beginning of the circle. That's where you came from, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's home. We should know our home. You come in here with the why, asking the question in a state of tension, to find the answer, to go back in a state of peace. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. To go back in a state of peace. So then why am I here? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسِ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. I have not created mankind or jinn except to worship me. And Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, he comes along and he says, أي ليعرفون. يعبدون ليعرفون. To know. He's saying we worship him to know him. We were born to worship him to know him. Worship him, know him, I will achieve happiness. I will achieve this. And I don't mean the ritual worship. I mean the type of worship that Imam Ali alayhi salam talks about when he says, I did not see anything except that I saw Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in it, before it and after it. Where you have taqwa, where you always think of Allah, you're God conscious. That kind of worship. And knowing him, you will achieve happiness through that. And we don't have much time for this, brothers and sisters. There's not much time. By the time we're 30 years old, we would have slept for about 8 years. Take into consideration school and eating and preparing our food, our time spent in the bathroom, all of that together, you add it, we don't have much time. where you sit down with yourself and you think, how will I change? What am I going to do about this? How am I change my life? How can I go forward? How will I grow? Not much time at all. The first step is you have to want to change. I want to change. It's urgent. A sense of urgency. Inna Allah yahdi man yasha. You want to change, you want to be guided. Allah will guide you. Seek guidance, you'll have it. But you have to want it. And you're responsible for it. No one else is. No one's going to come and make you change. You have to be willing to question yourself so much, to let go of everything that you're used to and comfortable with that holds you back so that you can grow. That takes a lot of effort and a lot of sacrifice. But if you're not changing and growing, everything in this universe is moving and changing. Otherwise it's dead. Make sure that it's a positive change. Make sure you're growing towards becoming the better version of yourself. So the first step is that sense of urgency. You know what happens is we sit down and we talk. You know, the elders in our communities, they talk a lot about politics, right? Look what's happening in Iraq. Look what's happening in Pakistan. But in India, it's so bad. Look what's happening in India. No, in Lebanon, it's worse. Look what's happening, right? It's like as if they're competing for what's the worst thing that's going on. No, my country is worse than yours. No, mine's worse than yours. Just want to talk about the problems. And the youth do this as well. No one understands us. The Maulana doesn't speak to us. We just want to talk about problems. Let's find solutions to those problems. Focus on yourself. We all know the famous ayah, Allah will not change a people until they change what's in themselves. Change what's in yourselves. We change what's in ourselves. And we know ourselves better than anyone else. You know exactly where your flaws are. You know exactly where your mistakes are. Be hard on yourself. Have su'u dhan in yourself and husnul dhan on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As in, with Allah always be hopeful. That He'll always give you out of His mercy. But with yourself, don't be satisfied with whatever you do. I pray Salatul Layl, I'm a really good Muslim. No, do not be satisfied with what you do. If you pray Salatul Layl, thank God for allowing you to pray it. Everything good that you do, attribute it to Him. Everything bad that you do, attribute it to yourself. Be hard on yourself. That's the way you're going to grow. Don't be satisfied. Not in a negative way. This is a positive thing. To be hard on yourself is positive. You're hard on yourself, true, but to grow. With Allah, you have that hope. So you ask yourself, what am I doing wrong? What's different this year than last year? That book I didn't read, the article I should have wrote, the prayers that I should pray on time, those 2 or 3 surahs that I didn't memorize. What's going to be different now? We just finished Shahr Ramadan, right? What's different now? Don't let it just go. And if you're feeling inspired right now, because we're all together and we're all helping each other, don't let that fire burn out. Go and seriously think about what you're going to do about this. Seriously think about what you're going to do about this. Because you have this amazing potential that you want to reach. And it'll be such a shame if we don't reach those. Human potential is so unlimited. Change towards that and grow towards that potential. What happens is we get pulled from all different areas of life. Our parents pull us this way. Your future wife might pull you this way. Your future husband might pull you this way. Your children pull you that way. You know, your work pulls you this way. And then you just want to be alone sometimes on your own as well. So you're getting pulled everywhere. Balance. Find your balance. Give everything its right. Give everything its justice. Everything its right time. Be wise about where your time is going. If you want to be alone, wake up half an hour before Fajr. Sit alone. Think. Pray. Speak to your Lord. Go to work. Give your work your 100%. Then you're with your spouse. Give them the 100%. With your children, with your parents. Have a balance. Time. Focus on your time. You will not change into growth if your time is wasted. Time is very precious. Focus on our time. There are 3 main steps for this change. And I really, really recommend, and I hope you guys do this when you go home, write them down. Writing it down is different than just hearing it. Write it down and look at it afterwards and answer these questions. Answer them. What do I want? Very simple. What do I want? Sit there. Don't do anything. Don't fidget on your phone. Sit there on your own and think, what do I want from life? What do I want? Seriously. And write it down. Number 2, why do I want it? This will give you the creed as to why you want to follow that thing. Why is that my goal? Why do I want it? Write that down as well. Think hard. Doesn't have to be one thing. Doesn't have to be just about religion either. It could be anything. Your financial goals, your relationship goals, your physical goals. Of course, religion is the center of all that. Right? What do I want? Here. What do I want? All these parts of life, what do I want? Why do I want each thing? Find out your intention. Find out your sentiment. That will make it strong. And then thirdly, and most importantly, what will I do now? Now you know what you want. You know why you want it. Now make a plan. This is what I'm going to do. This is how I will achieve this goal. And once, inshallah, those goals are achieved, you move on and you achieve new goals. And you're always growing because it's unlimited. And then you become who you are meant to be. Who you are meant to be. A few months ago, I was going through this thing where I was like, who am I really? If someone asked me, who are you? What do you say? Am I a student? One day I'm not going to be a student anymore, so who am I? You know, if you ask the policeman, who are you? And he said, a policeman, well, maybe that's during work hours. Who are you after your shift? Who are you? And I sat with my mind for a few weeks, who am I? And in that time, I was reading a random page of the Quran in Surah Maryam, randomly, every single day, for some reason, right? Randomly. And I realized the answer's right there. Nabi Isa alayhi salam is carried by Sayyidah Maryam. He's just born. And the people are all, how could you do this? How could you do this? Shouting at Sayyidah Maryam. And she doesn't speak. And she just points to the baby. And out of all the things that he could have said as his first words, he says, قَالَ إِنِّي عَبْدُ اللَّهِ. That's me. I am the slave of my Lord. I am the slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nabi Isa's first words, out of everything he could have said, he said that's who we're meant to be. When Allah is talking with Nabi Musa alayhi salam, and he tells him, Musa, ask me. Because Musa wasn't asking him for anything. Nabi Musa was shy. So he says, Allah, you know what's inside me. You know what I want. And Allah says, no, ask me. Even for the salt of your day, ask me. Even for the salt of your day, ask me. See, there's three levels. There's a level where you come up to Allah, you're shy, you don't want to ask. But then the level above that is when you ask Allah because He wants you to ask Him. Because He wants you to ask Him. That will build a relationship between you to any little thing. And I remember my teacher, he told me, if your shoe is ripped, go to Allah and say, Allah, I need a new shoe. That's simple. Something that simple. Right? Send me someone who can make me laugh today. When you have that relationship with God, then when you pray for change, you have more hope for it, you have more belief in it. You just open your hands up. And you know yourself in front of Him. You know how poor you are. Ya ayyuhan nas antum al-fuqara ila Allah. You are the poor ones to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You open your hands up. As the poor person that I am, acknowledging that my entire existence depends on another being. And I ask Him, here you're letting go of who you are to become who you're meant to be. To become who you're meant to be. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. I'd like to conclude with a small passage from Imam Khomeini to the youth. Just a paragraph, if you could bear with me. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. He says, you are young and you can adopt this path better. Do not worry about us, for we are already a spent force. You can purify your soul easily, as you are closer to the world of divinity than we, the old people. Comparatively, you have deteriorated less, but things are becoming worse and worse by day. The more delay will make the matter more difficult. It is difficult for an old man to be reformed, but a young man can be reformed quickly. It is easier to reform thousands of young men than to reform one old man. Therefore, do not postpone the task of reform to old age. Begin this work while you are still young. Follow the teachings of the prophets. This is the starting point. The prophets have shown us the way we should follow. While we are unaware of it, the prophets are familiar with the way of safety and security. If you want safety, follow the way shown by them. Gradually, pay less and less attention to your desires. You will not get desired results immediately, but gradually you can get rid of your egoism. One day all your desires will come to naught. It is not in our interest to pay attention to them. Lasting is only that which relates to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the Quran, Allah says, what is with you will come to an end. What is with Allah will remain. صدق الله العظيم. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين. صلوات.